Breaking news, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, has resigned. And of course, it was coming around the corner, frankly, in the last 24 hours or so. It seemed that his position was completely untenable. And ultimately, I suppose, Freddie, this is down to the fact that, he could have spoken out when he didn't speak out.
Well, it's a cover-up of abuse. And as a Catholic, as you may have been able to tell from my answer on the euthanasia question, I think, our church, the Catholic Church, has had a lot of this problem, a lot of scandal and disgrace. The Church of England has been less affected by it. But this is a huge one. And the fact that Welby has now had to go shows how serious it is. And I think that, the Church of England, there's been a lot of discontent with Welby on a number of fronts, and I think this is the straw that broke the camel's back. It's
interesting, isn't it, that he has been very outspoken on lots of issues that, you think, what's he even talking about Brexit for? But he's been big on that kind of stuff. But horrifically quiet, frankly, on this. And, of course, we know that in 2013 he was aware of what had happened. That report could have gone to the police. It didn't go to the police. He was in a position to make that happen and didn't. And there's no other way, really. I mean, you could say it's the polite form of covering up, but cover up it was. No way around it.
Well, you see this again and again with church leaders, particularly in the sort of Christian church since the 1960s. There's a huge stress on forgiveness, which is a great thing. But often that means a kind of institutional forgiveness within the church, which means, he can't be that bad, let's move him to another place.
Yeah.
This serial abuser of people, sexual abuser of people. And that creates this culture of cover-up that eventually breaks down and has now cost Archbishop Welby the most powerful job in the Church of England. And
we tend to, sometimes we get fascinated by the bigger headline, of course, that appears to be the bigger headline. The Archbishop has resigned. It is one of the most important global positions in the Church of England, of course, and we sort of almost forget what this is really about. And when you look back at this specific story, I mean, the level of abuse from this man, Smyth, who carried out years of just the most extraordinary physical and sexual violence against young boys. I mean, it is a reign of absolute terror. And back in 2013, Welby and others knew about that. They had knowledge of this, the highest level, about the abuse that took place in the late 70s and the 80s, and nothing happened. And I find that very hard to forgive that, Freddie, and I clearly it's the right decision that he should resign. Slightly questioning as to why it took so long, to be honest.
Well, I think the pressure on him was becoming unbearable, but it is an extraordinary scandal within the heart of the church, and it's extraordinary how close Welby was to this movement, this summer camps, public school and varsity summer camps movement, where this clearly psychotic predator was allowed to do terrible, terrible things. And then not only was he just, after it was discovered, he was then just moved to Africa, where he did even more terrible, terrible things. And so it is an absolute scandal. He had to go. And I think it's, it is a sign that he is a good man, that he has accepted his responsibility now. But as you say, Why did it so long?
Well, some of the comments he's made in that resignation speech: I've decided to resign as Archbishop of Canterbury, having sought the gracious permission of His Majesty the King. That's apparently how it works. The Making Review has exposed a long-maintained conspiracy of silence about the heinous abuses of John Smyth. He says, I believe wrongly that an appropriate resolution would follow after being informed of Smyth's abuse in 2013. So there was a bit of buck passing on that one. He says, I believe that stepping aside is in the best interest of the Church of England, which I dearly love and which I have been honoured to serve. My deepest commitment is to the person of Jesus Christ, my Saviour, my God, the bearer and the sins and the burdens of the world. And I hope, acknowledging somewhere in there the victims of this horrific, protracted reign of abuse that this man Smyth had, Freddie.
Well, yes, I think, Archbishop of Canterbury's have very, very difficult jobs. They're dealing with a church that is in terrible decline, in crisis on many fronts, a church that doesn't really know globally where it stands on an issue like gay marriage. And Rowan Williams had a very, very difficult time.
Yeah.
And what happened with Rowan Williams, actually, we found, was after he stopped being Archbishop of Canterbury, he became sort of respected as a holy man who did his best in very trying circumstances. Obviously, Welby's resignation will be different because of this scandal. However, I think as soon as he is out of the job, people will see that not just in terms of abuse within the church, but just on so many different fronts. Being Archbishop of Canterbury is a very, very difficult job. Because we are a very Christian society.
I'm sure it is. He does say that I step down as I do in sorrow with all the victims and the survivors of abuse. He says, I will follow through on my commitment to meet victims. I will delegate all my other current responsibilities for safeguarding until the necessary risk assessment process is complete. So that's what it is so far. And for those just joining us, Justin Welby, the Archbishop of Canterbury, has just resigned.